Welcome to Emotions and Eating with Nicola-beer. Nicola controlled her feelings using food for 25 years, so she knows how draining it is to be constantly thinking about or acting out with food. Thankfully, having made an amazing breakthrough in her recovery, her mission became about helping others escape the unsatisfying cycle of frustration and self-medication with food. Nicola is determined to help you find your inner strength so you can be healthy, gain confidence, feel great, and be at peace with yourself and food.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola-beer and I'm so excited to be sharing with you about a really important topic today, and that is depression and eating disorders. And it's very close to my own heart for lots of different reasons, as I'll be sharing with you. Because a lot of the time we just don't realise how much our eating patterns affect our overall moods. We are aware of emotional eating and we are aware that our emotions affect our eating, but what about the other way around? What about our eating then affecting our emotions? You see, when we're experiencing harmful eating patterns like binging, purging, anorexia or bulimia, this makes more of an impact on our state of mind and ultimately can and often does lead to depression. Depression can lead to eating disorders and eating disorders can lead to depression, and the two are so intertwined. So we're going to be exploring that in a little bit more detail now, because I've had a lot of people that I've been helping saying to me that they feel depressed, and it makes sense because often we know exactly the right things to be eating. I mean, you would have to be pretty much an idiot right now to not know that vegetables and salads and fruits and whole foods are good for you. I mean, everybody knows that now. I mean, there may be debates on some things. There may be debates on how much protein you need to eat. There may be debates on, do you need meat in your diet? Do you not need meat in your diet? There may be debates on milk and eggs. However, it's pretty much general knowledge that salads, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits are good for you. Nuts, seeds, all of these kinds of whole, natural foods, and particularly organic. So it's not actually a lack of knowledge that prevents a lot of us from eating junk food, or from deciding to starve ourselves, or from being sick, or from compulsively eating or binge eating so much within those 2 hours. It's not about this lack of knowledge about knowing what's healthy and what's not healthy for a lot of people. It's actually that they do not love themselves enough. They do not know how to cope with their emotions in a helpful way. They do not know what to do with their feelings of anger, frustration, low mood, stress, loneliness, regret, remorse, guilt, all of these kind of emotions. And so instead, they use food as a tool. And it can also be happy emotions. I have lots of people that say to me, Nicola, I need help with my eating, and it's not necessarily negative emotions they're eating on. When things go well in their life, they're saying, well, I deserve a treat. I deserve a reward. Things are going great. I've worked hard. I've got a career promotion. Or I've come into some money, and they want to celebrate with food. So it doesn't have to be low vibe emotions. But we're going to be talking today about how depression leads to eating disorders. So if you are experiencing depression, then it's natural that this can cause you to pick up harmful eating behaviours. If you're suffering from severe depression, you know that your mind is going to be affected from a psychological perspective, and you may not practice your normal habits that keep you healthy. you may refrain from things that help you, such as physical exercise and such as eating healthily. Like I mentioned, you may lose that motivation. One lady that I was working with 2 days ago, she was coming through a difficult time in her relationship. Her husband had had an affair and she felt depressed, and so she would just sleep all day. And then in between her sleep, she would eat. So literally her body wasn't really moving, and this affected her eating patterns, and this affected her overall sense of self-esteem, because she really wasn't doing things to make her mind active and her serotonin levels in the brain work in the way that they needed to work. So many people who are depressed act out their depression with food. Some people stuff themselves when they're feeling down, where they lose all interest in their physical appearance and being kind to their body, and they just want to comfort or to distract themselves from their feelings. And they hate themselves. So they carry on eating high-fat, high-calorie foods in vast quantities. Just had a man email me today that I'm working with to say that he's having great success. He's managed to break a habit, because when his relationship ended, he would end up sitting on the sofa, coming home from work, sitting on the sofa, eating all night. So he'd get in around 6 or 7, he'd sit down in front of the TV, start eating and drinking until he passed out around 1 o'clock. And he couldn't break this cycle until we started working together and breaking these habits. And it was because he was depressed about the end of his marriage. And he didn't know what life was going to look like in the future. He didn't know. Was he going to survive financially? Was he still going to have contact with his children? Was he going to ever meet anyone else? What does he do on the weekends? He had all these kind of fears. Will his children be affected by divorce? And so working through these fears together and changing and setting some goals around some new behaviours for what he could do differently really, really helped him. Because he had started to lose interest in his physical appearance. And the depression and lack of interest in life can cause some people like this to let themselves go and to punish themselves, or to take out the frustration by stuffing their body with rubbish. I had one lady say, well, I feel like rubbish, so I might as well just chuck rubbish down me. And that's a really sad place to be. However, it's possible to change from that. And then there are other people who starve themselves when they feel depressed. They don't want to eat. They don't feel happy enough to eat, or feel like eating at all. And they also often want to punish themselves. In some cases, they want to disappear completely. They believe, I don't deserve to eat. I don't want to eat. Unfortunately, this actually happened to my mum. My mum had anorexia when she was 15 and 16 because her mum died of breast cancer. And so she grew up seeing her mum dying in her teenage years, as well as when her mum did die, she became the woman of the household. She became responsible for the household. She became responsible for running it, for making sure it was clean, for looking after her younger brother, who was only a toddler. So it took a real toll on my mum. And she didn't know how to cope with these emotions. She didn't have any support line. She didn't have anyone to talk to. And so she started not eating. And this is actually quite common. When people go through a breakup, a lot of people also don't eat. They stop eating. Sometimes it's because they want to slim down, because they hope that in the future when they are ready to date that they are thinner. But more times than not, they just can't eat because they just feel like the whole world has been turned upside down. So you can see how depression can lead to eating disorders and further weigh a person down, emotionally and mentally. It can make a person feel like they are going deeper and deeper into that dark hole of despair where less and less people can help them, and where no one understands their pain that they are going through. And many people will try to give you advice on healthy food or exercise, and it's not about you not knowing that exercise is good for you or that eating fresh fruit and vegetables is good for you. The key thing that needs to happen to change the eating patterns and to change the exercise or lack of exercise patterns is getting out of depression. It's about feeling good about yourself. It's about processing the emotions in a healthy, nourishing way so that you can be motivated to eat well. Does that make sense? If there's a lack of motivation for life, for healthy habits, then it doesn't matter how much information you have at your fingertips, it's going to just go in one ear and out the other, if it's someone telling you, or it's just going to lie. You might buy a book of healthy recipes, but you're not going to look at it. It's just going to sit on your shelf somewhere, unopened and not looked at. So that's how depression can lead to eating disorders. But now let's talk about how eating disorders can lead to depression. The physical part of eating disorders can lead to depression because most compulsive, comfort and binge eaters don't eat high quality food that will nourish them. And anorexics and bulimics are often not digesting enough healthy food that their body needs, so they are also often malnourished. This malnourishment, and I cannot even say that word, so I'm not going to say it again, affects mind, mood and body, which does not help to bring out the depression in many cases. It makes them worse. The more depressed that they feel, the less they love themselves, and the higher the lack of self-love, and the less motivated they are to eat healthy, as I've just explained. So malnourishment, why can't I say that word, is going to affect your mood, because your body is going to be craving the right amount of vitamins and minerals that it needs. And if you are undersupplying your body over a period of time, your mind is going to become weak, your sleep probably is going to be disturbed, and your immune system is going to become weak. And therefore, you're going to find life generally harder, and then it's easily to see how someone can slip into depression. And so some people just do this without realising, and some people, they're so angry, they're so frustrated, they're so feeling that life isn't fair, that they actually want to harm themselves. They actually want to self-destruct. And this destructive trap can become repetitive, and people get worse, not better, over time, unless they take action. That's one of the biggest things about healing from any kind of emotional or addictive habit, or anything you want to change in your life, is not to wait for time to change things. Because all time does is pass. If you want a real change, then it's about taking action within that time. Being willing to look at your emotions, being willing to try different things, different ways of changing behaviours. And having an eating disorder can also lead you to suffer from depression due to mental unhappiness. Because you know when you are acting out with food that you are mentally not in the right place that you want to be. And this is going to play on your mind. When I was being bulimic, I knew something is wrong here. What am I doing? What is wrong with me? This is not normal. This is not healthy. And I was scared. I was scared because I knew that I'm not living the life that I deserve to live. And when I tried to block it out and not think about it, sometimes I can manage to do that. But at a subconscious level, at a deeper level, I knew this behaviour is not good. And especially when I woke up in the morning, I would say to myself, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be sick again today, or I'm going to eat healthily today, or I'm not going to binge today, or I'm only going to eat 3 meals today and no snacks, or I'm going to stop eating at 8 p.m. at night.